Everyone has something they're willing to fight for. Could be family, friends, your beliefs, your home. Doesn't matter who you are, there's just some things you have to protect. But what do you do when the world fights back? Guess I know now.
I have to say that Forspoken is a game that I've been looking forward to for a long time, as in through all of its delays. A couple months back, I downloaded and started playing the demo. I was relatively pleased with the magical parkour system, but like many others, I felt that the battle system needed some development. Admittedly, I also figured that I might need a little more practice. I enjoy games, but I am by no means a gamer. You'll probably never see me do one of those watch my flawless run on this boss type videos. I am thinking about purchasing this game, but I wanted to give a meta critique or a critique of the critiques that I've been seeing about certain aspects of this game. Before I get into that, however, I want to remind you to subscribe and hit the notification button so that you know whenever we drop new content. This helps the channel out a great deal. Also, don't forget to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, where we can continue these conversations. This way, you can learn more about some of the concepts and jargon we use, scholars mentioned, and explore Black imaginative production together. And lastly, if you so choose, support our Patreon. Our goal is to garner virtual but also actual space for continued group study and imaginative community building. I feel that you've probably seen enough reviews, so I'll let those who are much more in tune with that genre of video do that. But something has been bothering me about the reviews. I will say this up front. A part of me wants to defend this game because it does feature a biracial female protagonist and other Black female voice actors prominently. So my goal is not to be objective. Objectivity is a nigh impossibility anyway, and Black studies has already shown how even science has been implicated in and structured by anti-Blackness. Another topic for another day. What I want to critique is the commentary on Frey in particular. While I've seen varied responses on the battle system, the facility of using magic parkour, the pacing, and other more technical aspects of the game and narrative flow, the comments on Frey have been very consistent, with many people saying that she is either unlikable and unrelatable, or that they hate the way she talks. In a couple videos, they comment on her apathetic attitude. The gist of the argument is that she is angsty and doesn't seem to really like the world that she comes from. On top of that, she also seems to be kind of blah about the one into which she is isekai'd. Coming from a Black analytical perspective, a Black woman is not obligated to like or care about their world, or any world for that matter. Let's start at the beginning, not just of the game, but of Frey's life, at least what we know of it. Of course, we begin with the troubled urban teen of color trope, and we see Frey once again in trouble with the law. It's in this scene in the courtroom that we learn, through the trope of Black pathological parenting and the inherent unlovability of Black children, about her story of abandonment. Named after the tunnel where she was found abandoned, her abandonment becomes a permanent part of her identity. It becomes one of the few parts of her story that has a name, such that it becomes a constant reminder of an unresolved trauma that lives on into the present as a constitutive aspect of her life, as all society continuously exhibits its ability to abandon her over and over again. It's also in this courtroom where Frey is berated by a Black woman judge, which, skeptically, I believe was cast to mitigate criticisms of racism. By the way, y'all, this doesn't work. In their work, scholars like Jared Sexton and João H. Costa Vargas talk about borrowed institutionality, wherein Black and other marginalized peoples seeking full humanity and incorporation in the world participate in already established anti-Black systems and logics that afflict Black people, and also non-Black people by extension. This is evidenced by the invocation of the 3 strikes law by the judge, who reminds Frey that she is on her 3rd strike.
Are you familiar with the persistent felony offender law, also known as the 3 strikes law?
Wait, you can't do that. I never hurt anyone.
Just yourself. You have 2 previous felony thefts. And with this new one, your grand total will be 3. This could put you away for a very, very long time. You have so much
Potential? I can do so much more with my life. I'm a smart girl with a bright future.
I was going to say you have so much anger and resentment in you, I'm not sure you'll ever amount to anything at all. Truth hurts.
Many of you might know that this has its basis in anti-Black reality as a set of laws with hugely deleterious effects on Black communities that have been well documented. In deciding not to lob the full force of this law against Frey, a manipulative act of coercion, the court system is able to redeem itself, and the state becomes a righteous arbiter of justice, despite sending her back to homelessness, poverty, and all of her unresolved and unattended to trauma.
But in the holiday spirit, I'm going to give you an early present. Try not to piss it away. I'm going to release you under the condition you serve 120 hours of community service.
Thanks. You won't regret it.
Next time you end up in front of me, I will not be as lenient. We clear? Good. You're free to go. Frey, one more thing. Happy almost birthday. It's not too late to start using your gifts to help others.
Justice system gets a pat on the back, and Frey gets more of the same. On top of nothing changing materially for Frey, she is told not only to bootstrap herself into becoming a more model citizen, but she is also called on to use her abilities to help others. There is no agency in any world for Frey. In one world, she is living out every troubled teen trope used to kind of shore up young urban Black life in the US media, which means that much of her life is structured by anti-Blackness, a world she must now somehow use her abilities to change, despite not knowing how to change her own situation. And then she gets pulled into another world, which she is now obligated to save in order to return home.
You can have this after you help me.
Quid pro quo. I get it.
He kept his notes on the break and read journals like this one. I need you to find them and bring them back.
Okay, so I go and get the journals, bring them back, and then we're square. That's the full extent of my savioring.
I will do everything in my power to help you get home. You have my word.
Okay, I'm in. Why not? It's not like I've got any better options.
Oh, this is good news. You're truly helping the people of Athia.
Not why I'm doing it, but yeah, sure.
Mind you, this is, for all intents and purposes, an alien world that she is being told is where she belongs. The inability for Black people to name place for themselves, and the disequilibrium of feeling like you belong nowhere and everywhere at the same time. Where is her ability to ever just say, I want to be, without having to be something or somewhere for others? I would say that doesn't exist. Frey is always already in service to something and someone outside of herself. And it is made clear that asking for anything for herself will garner a rebuke and accusations of selfishness, when Frey has never been in possession of a self for which anything could be done, even by her.
But don't let our grief and assured destruction get in the way of your self-pity.
Okay, that's fair.
Fair? You want to talk about fair? What's unfair is the only person capable of helping us is too self-absorbed to do so.
I've shed blood for this place.
Our people welcomed you. They were frightened. Rightfully so. But they still welcomed you.
They needed me.
What's wrong with that? People need each other. We help one another without complaint. It's the Athian way. Not that I should have expected you to understand that. After all, you're not one of us.
No. No, you know what? You are right. I didn't grow up here. I didn't have a community that supported me. I couldn't go and drink with my friends at the bar. I couldn't go outside and play with the kids. I couldn't walk on beautiful landscapes. I didn't have a mother or a father that wanted me. or loved me. So no, I don't care what happens to Athia. If it's saved or if it burns, I don't give a shit because this place is not my home.
Her frequent use of the F word also seems to come up in so many videos as exorbitant. One thing that you may not know about me is that I teach music in what might be considered a maximum security facility for youth. Young people who admirably have given up on some of the useless conventions of professionalism, cordiality, and who actively challenge notions of propriety curse a lot. Children who dispense with caring for the world because the world has shown them that it will actively refuse to lead with or reciprocate that care do not rely on the sense of stability and belonging that so many of us get from these daily performances of being upright and moral. Performances that cause us to repress many of our own desires and that lead us to discipline those who we think are excessive in pathological ways. I would say that this is out of jealousy. We think they are living on the other side of the boundaries we observe and stay within. On the flip side, I also understand that Frey's writers were not Black people and that people of color were consulted in the writing and portrayal of the characters of color, while the actual writing was done by a largely white crew. So there is that. However, remember, I'm not one to think that representation matters. I don't want more Black consultants or even writers for non-Black companies. We can create on our own. Blackness is not an identity. It is the negation of identity for us while being the stuff out of which others create identity. There is no Black personality or way of showing up in the world. And I don't think that we have to create or put forth the idea that there are these kinds of Black people that are limited to these few portrayals. I don't think that we need to disavow Frey. I'm also not asking anyone here to like Frey or even rethink how they think about her as much as I'm thinking about why they feel they can't relate to her. I would suggest that many of us who are Black, who are identified as people of color, can and do relate to Frey. We know what it is like to show up in the world as what Calvin Warren calls pure function, wherein we are tools of redemption, salvation, and cohesion for other people and whole worlds, but incapable of wielding that same capacity for ourselves. We know what it's like to never be really considered appropriate because our language, hair, bodies are considered too much, too little, unprofessional, etc., etc., etc. What it's like to want to have to hold ourselves back from saying fuck very often and very loudly. Really, what I'm doing is letting us all know that who and what we like and how we feel people should show up in whatever worlds are being depicted is more a statement about us and what structures have shaped our internal worlds, anti-Blackness being the major one. I'm suggesting that this is not something that we need to even organize around because while we need new and different stories, with new and different characters, what is needed to be transgressive are other logics that can destroy and replace the ones we have so that we can restructure how people and thus characters are constructed. Now, I'm not really in the business of talking to white critics and reviewers, and I'm not really even into talking about them, but I would suggest that what we are seeing is an inability to relate to Frey because of an inability to relate to Black people. Even though she is a fictional character, does she have an interiority that can be separate from our own? Perhaps it shows us the limit of our ability to engage fiction. Maybe we bring and impose ourselves onto these characters, as the world often imposes its narratives on Black people. Perhaps the inability to relate is because existing as a tool, an object, is not something they have to worry or think about. They find worlds wherein they can be free of whatever burdens them. In the world of Athia, we really can't say to be sure that race exists as a construct as it is understood in Frey's original world and in our world. But what we know, both intuitively and intellectually as Black people, is that we have not yet been able to envision a world that can free Black people. Every world that we've created thus far finds ways to take its Black characters and marry them to pure utility and objecthood, to forever mark us with the literal trappings of captivity. This is evidenced by the judge telling the bailiff to remove
please remove
Frey's
her cuffs.
cuffs in the courtroom, and then her being whisked away into an alternate world where a cuff literally ends up becoming a permanent part of her body as she now acts as servant and redeemer of Athia.
Cuff?
As its sole Tanta, battling against an always encroaching corruption called the Break. The Black is the consummate captive, and we are seeing that this may have been the case as far back as Hellenistic antiquity. So anti-Blackness can be said to be the tools by which worlds are made. Or maybe anti-Blackness is a necessary set of tools precisely because we've been hell-bent on building worlds. There may be a kind of duality in what we need to be asking. What happens when the tools go away? Or maybe we should be asking what happens when that which requires tools goes away. What if the answer is not to create worlds? If Blackness is wielded in its capacity to end this world, what results? Do liberation and freedom require a world? Or do worlds automatically encapsulate, entrap, enslave? As always, I'd love to hear your thoughts, and I'd love to see what you think about the game. I would like to really encourage you to share these videos with your community to dream up and begin the creative projects that we need to be taking up as Black people and those non-Black people willing to be authorized by Blackness. Join our Patreon to dream with us and our growing community, and comment below and subscribe to stay up with the conversation.
Ah.